Hey, buddy. Can you see if there's any rain clouds coming from up there? Thanks for having a look. Between the Rockies and the Appalachians, some of the greatest topographical relief in the United States can be found in the Ozark Plateau. It is here that I'm visiting a real gem of a natural area, and the first national river to be designated in the United States, the Buffalo River. I'll be doing an out-and-back hike that'll lead me through a dense forest and then ending on a bluff that sits 340 feet above the river with spectacular views. Along the way, I'll be inspecting some of the wildlife I encounter, as well as discussing some of the geology at the lookout point. The hike I'm doing can be found on alltrails.com. The trailhead is about a 1-hour drive south of Branson, Missouri, and an hour and a half east of Fayetteville, Arkansas, near the tiny town of Ponca. Conditions were especially muggy this day, with temperatures in the low 90s and humidity cranked up by the heavy rains from the day before. Despite that, I opted for pants and a long-sleeved sun hoodie to guard against insects and poison ivy. That meant I had to be extra mindful of not overheating as the day went on. Alright, right off of Route 43, we're at the Centerpoint Trailhead parking lot. We're going to hike for a ways. We're going to end up at this goat trail and then have a nice view of the Buffalo River. It's only 3.5 miles. But like 1,000 feet of elevation. I have to be really mindful of my footing after all that rain we just had. It was exciting to be in such a lush forest, especially in an area completely new to me. The unfamiliar surroundings distracted me from the uncomfortably high humidity. One highlight was spotting a tree I don't see back home in the upper Midwest, the post oak. This species thrives on dry sites with shallow, nutrient-poor soils and is well adapted to fire. It produces small acorns with warty caps that are highly sought after by wildlife. Wild turkeys, for one, consider them a key food source. Post oak leaves have a distinctive cross shape and they are densely hairy underneath. The tree also provides great habitat, offering thick horizontal branches for nesting songbirds and hollow trunks for animals to den in. Adult fritillaries will sip nectar from various flowers, but their caterpillars rely entirely on violets for food. Female fritillaries lay their eggs near violet plants to ensure that their young have what they need to survive. The distinctive leaf of sassafras, usually they're 3-lobed. This one's 2-lobed. Oftentimes they're just single-lobed, and when they're single-lobed they look very much like spice bush, which also is very common around here. But here's the giveaway for sassafras versus spice bush, which are very closely related, by the way. It's these green twigs. You can see on this one that a lot of its leaves do just have the single lobe, which again, at first might make you confuse it for spice bush. Sassafras, one of the most wonderful smells in nature. So good. I say it smells like root beer. Freshly harvested, chicken of the woods mushrooms are considered a delicacy by some, though I can't say I share that opinion. But that's possibly due to my own questionable cooking skills. As I continued on, I came upon a species of hickory that I was unfamiliar with. Alright, this one seems to have 7 leaflets per leaf. The nuts are much smaller than the shagbark. Four-parted. Nothing unusual. And then the husk is pretty thin. This is a black hickory. Its terminal bud is small for a hickory, with yellow scales and, if you look closely, some distinctive red hairs. The bark is another clue, very dark and deeply furrowed. Haha, look what this pawpaw tree caught for me. This was on its way down, but I got a couple of good samples here of the hickory nuts. Leaflets in groups of 5. Terminal leaflet seems to be the biggest, and then the second biggest are the lateral ones closest to the terminal leaflet. And it's got pretty big fruits and a thick husk. Yep, all these traits add up to shagbark hickory. Very common. That's a good pawpaw tree. Well done. Used to seeing these in patches. Unusual to see a pawpaw just by itself. Aha, now we're getting some more pawpaws. Unusual for me is to see them so far upland. I needed to pick up the pace to make up for all the stopping. I was really enjoying all the nature around me, but the forest was so dense that I hadn't caught a glimpse of the river yet. I was looking forward to reaching the vista and taking in some wide open views. This isn't my most confident mushroom ID, but once I learned there's a pinwheel species that grows fairly large and is known to occur in this area, it became my top suspect. The cap has the telltale uplifted margin with age and central bump, and the stem is tough and maintains a consistent thickness from top to bottom. I finally reached the goat trail and am now entering the bluff zone. I'm getting excited to finally catch some views. I had to stop and admire the unusual color of the fruits on this plant. They look like candy. It's native to the southeastern U.S. and, interestingly, also found on islands like Cuba, the Bahamas, and Bermuda, which suggests a preference for limestone-rich soils. The two trees dominating these bluffs are chinkapin oak and eastern red cedar. Chinkapin oak produces what many consider the sweetest acorns of any oak, clearly a wildlife favorite as I can only find a few empty caps. It has light gray flaky bark, and while other oaks and chestnuts have toothed leaves, chinkapin is the only species with that trait native to northwest Arkansas. Eastern red cedar, on the other hand, grows almost everywhere in the eastern U.S. now that fire is no longer keeping it in check. While it's considered a nuisance in many areas, it seems perfectly at home on bluffs like these. Here it resembles its cousin, Juniperus occidentalis, which grows from sheer cliffs in the mountains of the western U.S. I'm nearing the end of my hike now, and I've been struck by how much water is dripping from every surface. It's a clear reminder of how heavy yesterday's rain was. It also reinforces that I'm in karst terrain, where rainfall slowly dissolves the underlying limestone, carving out caves, sinkholes, and other dramatic features over time. According to this geologic map, I believe I'm standing on the St. Joe limestone member of the Boone Formation, marked by a thin strip of lavender labeled MBS. This layer dates to the Mississippian subperiod of the early Carboniferous, about 350 million years ago. All day I've been hiking across rocks formed when this region was covered by a shallow sea, where limestone built up from the compressed remains of tiny marine organisms. Beneath all that, down at river level, lies an exposure of Powell dolomite from the early Ordovician, around 475 million years ago, which predates even the first land plants. The view of the Buffalo River from up here is incredible. It's easy to see why it earned National River status. In 2020, Arkansas negotiated a conservation easement that led to the closure of a large hog farm on one of its tributaries due to concerns about water contamination. However, a follow-up bill that would have permanently banned medium and large hog farms in the Buffalo River watershed was ultimately dropped. In a Northwest Arkansas Democrat Gazette article, a spokesman for the Arkansas Farm Bureau said, "There's a way to balance environmental issues and agricultural stewardship without additional government regulations." When asked if this decision reflects that the Farm Bureau has more sway with lawmakers than conservationists do, one senator stated, "I don't think Farm Bureau played the role that I think some did." Here's Grindelia lanceolata, growing on its preferred limestone substrate, accompanied by a sleepy orange butterfly enjoying the late season nectar. Plants in the Asteraceae family are especially important this time of year, providing food for insects as the season winds down. As the sun heats the ground, rising thermals form, which the turkey vulture uses to fly without flapping its wings. These scavengers rely on sharp eyesight and an excellent sense of smell to find food, often flying low to detect gases released during the early stages of decay. It's getting late in the afternoon, and the sun's starting to play tricks on me. After the long days of summer, it can be sneaky this time of year, dropping fast in the early fall. Gilled mushrooms growing without a stem and on wood might make you think of oyster mushrooms, a tasty edible. But be cautious with ones that don't have prominent, fairly large caps. This one's a crepidatus. They're not considered edible, but they're not known to be toxic either. Christmas ferns get their name either because they stay green through winter or because their leaflets resemble tiny Christmas stockings. Either way, they're one of the most common ferns you'll encounter. Look for their dark green color and the distinctive basal lobe on each leaflet. Both are key features. The rapidly fading daylight forced me to hike a bit faster than I wanted to. I had to watch my step carefully, and it became harder to take in my surroundings. I didn't get it on video, but at one point I startled a wild hog that was just off the trail in front of me.
I don't think this rain's gonna let up anytime soon, so good time to try one of these NASA meals. The recipe is to carefully add 1 1/4 cups of boiling water. You're probably not supposed to do this stuff inside of a tent. All right, wait 5 minutes, it says. Looking good. Looks like I forgot to take the dehydration pack out, but that's all right. Maybe that adds some flavor. Reseal for another 4 minutes, it says. Okay, it's been another 4 minutes. Stir again and serve. Bon appetit. Oh, that's really good. I think I could survive in space if this is what they get to eat. That was good. Well, little bits of water are starting to get into the tent in the four corners. Just a situation I'm going to have to stay on top of.
Luckily, there was a 24-hour laundromat not far from the campground. I had to visit every few hours to dry out the towels and sweatshirts I was using to soak up all the water leaking into the tent. That tent served me well for over 20 years, but this ended up being its final trip.